She woke before the sun every day, long before the city stretched its arms or the birds found their voices. In the quiet darkness of their small room, she moved softly so her son could sleep a little longer. Hunger was already there, sitting patiently in her stomach, but she ignored it like an old acquaintance she had learned to live with. She washed her face with cold water, tied her worn scarf, and looked once more at her son. His face was peaceful, unaware of how carefully she guarded his dreams. She remembered the day he first spoke of them. He was only 8, sitting at the small wooden table with a pencil held too tightly in his fingers. He had drawn a building with tall windows and said he wanted to design places where people could feel safe and happy. She smiled then, not because she fully understood what an architect was, but because she saw the light in his eyes. That light became her reason. Life had not been kind to her. Her husband had left early, leaving behind silence and unpaid bills. Work was never steady. Some days she cleaned houses, other days she washed dishes in a restaurant until her hands cracked and burned. The money was never enough, but she learned how to stretch it. One loaf of bread became 2 days of meals. One bag of rice became a week. And often, when there was not enough, she told her son she had already eaten. At night, she would sit on the edge of the bed while he studied. The single light bulb flickered above them, and the air was thick with heat and exhaustion. He would read aloud, his voice unsure at first, then growing stronger. She listened carefully, even when her eyes begged to close. Sometimes he would look up and ask if she was tired. She would shake her head and smile, always smile. She never told him that her body ached or that her stomach felt hollow. She wanted his world to be full, even if hers was empty. There were evenings when the smell of food from neighboring homes drifted through the thin walls. Her son would pause and swallow, pretending not to notice. She would quickly distract him, asking about his lessons or his drawings. Later, when he slept, she would allow herself a moment of weakness. She would sit in the dark and breathe slowly, reminding herself that this hunger had meaning. It was not suffering without purpose. It was sacrifice. As he grew older, his dreams grew larger. School became more demanding, and so did the costs. Books, fees, transportation. Each new expense felt like a mountain. She took on more work, leaving earlier and returning later. Some days she ate nothing at all, saving every coin. Her clothes became looser, her face thinner, but her eyes remained steady. She carried her love like armor. One winter, she fell ill. The cold crept into her bones and refused to leave. She coughed through the nights, pressing her pillow to her mouth so he would not hear. When he noticed her shaking hands, she told him it was nothing, just tiredness. He offered to skip school for a day to help her. The fear in her heart was sharp. She refused immediately, her voice stronger than her body. His education was not something she would ever allow to bend. There was a day he came home with a letter in his hands. His school had selected him for a special program, one that could help him reach university. His eyes shone as he spoke, but his smile faded quickly. He knew what this meant. More money. More sacrifice. He said maybe it was not the right time. She took the letter, read it slowly, and then held his face in her hands. She told him that dreams do not wait for perfect moments. She told him she believed in him more than she believed in anything else. That night, she made a decision she did not share. She sold the last valuable thing she owned, a small piece of jewelry her mother had given her long ago. It was not worth much, but it was enough. When she handed her son the money days later, she told him she had saved it slowly. He hugged her tightly, and she closed her eyes, feeling both loss and relief. Years passed quietly. Hunger came and went. Hope stayed. Her son studied hard, often late into the night, just as she once had watched him. Now he noticed more. He noticed her smaller portions, her slower steps. He noticed how she avoided mirrors. Guilt began to settle in his heart. One evening, he asked her the question she feared most. He asked if she had sacrificed her life for his dream. She did not answer right away. She thought of the mornings, the empty meals, the pain. Then she thought of his drawings, his persistence, the kindness he carried. She told him softly that love is not measured by what is lost, but by what is given freely. She said she never felt poor when she saw him growing. The day he left for university was bright and loud. The city seemed to celebrate with him. She stood at the station, her hands trembling, her smile unwavering. He promised to return, to take care of her, to repay everything. She laughed gently and told him to repay the world instead. As the train disappeared, she felt the familiar emptiness, but this time it was mixed with pride. Her health faded quietly after that. Without him, there was less reason to be strong. But she followed his life through letters and calls. She heard about his projects, his struggles, his successes. Each word fed her more than food ever could. When he finally returned years later, taller, confident, carrying the weight of his achievements, he found her smaller, resting by the window. He knelt beside her and held her fragile hands. Tears fell freely now. He told her he had become everything because of her. She smiled, weak but peaceful. She told him she was never starving. She had been full of purpose. Full of love. When she passed, he found her old scarf folded neatly, and beside it, his first childhood drawing. He understood then that her sacrifice was not about hunger. It was about faith. And he carried that lesson into every building he designed, creating spaces filled with light, remembering the woman who had lived in shadows so he could dream.